behold the greatest computing power that one could purchase for the low, low price of $4,000 in 1992. This was my parents' first personal computer. Would retail in 2013 dollars for about $6,500. I thought the lightning bolt and the low pixel Tiger really reinforced how fast this computer actually was for the time. And I bring it up sort of as an illustration of how far we've come with computing. This chart, pulled directly from Wikipedia, represents Moore's law. Basically what it says is that computing power doubles every 18 months. So over a period of 20 years, it's actually an exponential change in our ability to compute. And it's gotten so fast and so good that we use disposable technology now to have national cell phone throwing competitions with that technology that we no longer use. The guy on the right actually won the competition, and I got second place. But yeah, well, phones fly really well. So we not only have come a long way in their powerful nature, we also use them a fair bit. In 1 month, in 2012, we sent 8 billion text messages as a country, going from the first one 20 years previously. We don't activate 1.3 million devices today. We activate 1.5, Google actually announced today. We not only use them all the time, but they have effects that some of you have probably noticed or thought about. Some of you are probably statistically checking your phones right now while I'm giving this presentation. Overuse of your phone might actually make you dumber. This is what researchers at McGill are trying to figure out. We are so addicted to our phones that we would rather give up things like sex and alcohol ahead of our smartphone. This is at least one finding from a survey done in the United States. We check our phones, depending on who you ask, every 6.5 minutes, or we use cumulatively every 23 days a year is spent on our smartphones. And we've sure come a long way with the technology. If any of you are familiar with Flight of the Conchords, you might have remembered a really funny skit where to create a camera phone, you actually duct taped a point and shoot camera to a phone. But back in the day, it wasn't too far off. Nokia makes a phone with a 41 megapixel sensor now, and it's not that big a deal. That came out last year. And really, this is the direction we're heading in. Back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, you would have separate devices for an alarm clock, a GPS, a camera, a video recorder, a phone, some instant messaging device. And is this the end game? Tricorder, for those of you who know what Star Trek is. Something that you can just wave it in front of a person and know everything about them, have a communication medium that works over everything that we have to date. What else can we pack into a mobile computer that we throw into our pocket and bring with us everywhere we go? Well, a hell of a lot. But first, it's really interesting to look at how we do use phones. We can look at the most popular apps on the iTunes Store or on Google Play, and a lot of them are very redundant ways of communicating with each other. Do you honestly need to use Facebook, Skype, Messenger, instant messaging programs like WhatsApp, Twitter to communicate one message? No, but we like the ubiquity of it. My question is, how do we actually use phones beyond communication, media consumption, to actually do good with them? If you think about it, we have an unprecedented ability to use mobile computing to affect things like education and healthcare. And I'll give you one example from healthcare. You can actually, if you all took out your smartphone right now and installed an app, take your heart rate. Right now, with a quick accessory, you could check your blood sugar levels if you were diabetic. You can socially benchmark your exercise against others to help you promote your own exercise and weight loss programs, like my brother did, who lost 60 pounds in 7 months and ran a marathon. Blind people or visually impaired people can use haptic feedback and innovative, sorry, I lost my train of thought, innovative interactive formats to actually use a smartphone in many of the same ways that we do. And this is, again, unprecedented for them. How do we use cell phones to mitigate disaster? This is an image from the tsunamis of 2004 that struck Southeast Asia. That area of Indonesia was completely wiped out. We lost about 150 to 160,000 people during that disaster. How many of those lives could have been saved if we had had these in every person's hand? This is a Facebook posting from my cousin yesterday following the Boston blasts. He was 50 meters from the finish line when the blast went off, and he was safe. And I knew about it within an hour. over social media that he posted from his phone. Without a smartphone with an internet connection, how long would it have taken him to notify everyone he knows that it would have been fine? In my day job, I work in climate change and sustainability, trying to drive energy efficiency through the built form. What kind of innovations and creativity lie untapped by using the computers in our pockets to solve big, big problems? I don't have an answer, but it's an interesting question nonetheless. If you in this room have probably been affected by, work with, or have thought about some of these issues, how are 9 billion people on this planet going to coexist with limited resources by 2050? How are we going to sustain economic growth? How are we going to abate climate change? One of the ideas might be sticking advertisements on the top of gas nozzles. There's a lot of untapped opportunity. In the 1950s and 60s, this was your average scene in a place like Seattle in this case. This was the infrastructure that we had in place to actually drive communication. We have leapfrogged that by leaps and bounds with our ability to communicate things instantly and wirelessly. In 1969, that infrastructure was still in place, and we were sending people to the moon with 1/2 millionth of the storage capacity in a computer that you have in your iPhone. They went to the moon in 1969. We throw birds at pig houses. So what exactly are we doing? A lot of these ideas, a lot of the creativity and innovation to be tapped is there for the taking. These technologies were imagined decades ago in some cases. Dick Tracy thought of the smartwatch in the 40s. Star Trek imagined the iPad as early as the 60s, and video technology has been around for a really long time. The real creativity and innovation is how we use these tools to do good and impact in the world. Thank you.